Hi there. My name is Cindy Bowling. I am a licensed clinical social worker and work in the WorkLife Connections program here at UK. Today, I'm just taking some time to talk a little bit, get some information about anxiety versus worry, and talk about stress responses and anxiety responses, how to recognize those in yourself and in other people, and when might be a good time, like what does it look like when anxiety and worry shows up in your life, and it might be helpful to talk to somebody about it, seek professional guidance about it to help work through those things and get some expanded coping skills from the ones that you already use. All right, so this breaks down worry versus anxiety. If you think about worried thoughts, those can be controlled. We can have something pop into our mind and we worry about it for a little bit, but we're able to either compartmentalize that or put that away or figure out a solution or just move on to something else that we need to do. When those worried thoughts turn into anxiety, they become more consuming or sometimes all consuming. With worry, you might have some mild physical symptoms or tension in your body. And also tension extends to tension with other people. Sometimes that worry can create irritability for folks. And you'll notice either tension in your body or tension in the air, energy room around you. Anxiety, when worry shifts to a level of anxiety, you might have more of a physical reaction. You might notice more of those somatic symptoms in your body. With worry, you can typically maintain perspective. If something comes up for you, like someone you know is diagnosed with an illness, you can be worried about them, but you can maintain some perspective. Like they're aware that this is going on, they have the resources they need, they're able to go to the doctor and keep perspective in that. So of course you're worried because something is wrong and outside the normal, but you're able to maintain perspective. If that shifts to a place of anxiety, folks tend to go to like that worst case scenario. Like if this person has been diagnosed with coronavirus, for example, that means they're going to die. That's worst case scenario. Or if I get coronavirus, I'm going to infect somebody and they will die, or I will die. It's hard to maintain perspective when that anxiety kicks in. Real events cause worry. COVID-19 is a real event. It's a pandemic that we're all dealing with, and of course we're worried about it, but if we can't maintain perspective, that's a problem. And so the mind creates anxiety. The mind inflates things, takes us to those worst case scenarios, takes us into fear, and we start to worry about things that have not happened. There's no evidence that they will happen. Or at least it's not happening right now, so we don't have to worry and stress about it right now. Worry can be productive. It can generate like getting into the problem solving process, trying to find solutions for things that worry us. But when you get to that place of anxiety, often that can lead to shutting down. It can affect your relationships if you worry about things or are focused on worries or anxieties more than is allowing you to engage in your life in the way that you want to or you usually do, and can lead to not meeting responsibilities that tend to cause other problems for you. This is a graphic that just shows normal anxiety versus an anxiety disorder. So some of the things that I've already talked about, maybe you have an occasional worry about life events. You might be self-conscious in social situations, but it doesn't keep you from going into social situations. And on the other side, where we start to get into more problematic manifestations of anxiety, you might have nightmares, performing repetitive actions because you feel like you need to decrease the worry that you're having about that specific things, might go into an issue of panic attacks or worrying about having anxiety and trying to avoid that. So these are just common signs of anxiety. Feeling nervous, restless, or tense. And going back to that tension, tense can mean you feel tense inside your body, or you feel tense like on edge. Like if one more thing happens, or if this person says one more thing, I'm gonna snap or go off. Having a sense of impending danger, a looming panic attack, or a sense of impending doom. Having increased heart rate, and respiration rate, like breathing faster, heart pounding, or heart palpitations. Might experience some temperature changes in your body, like either going really hot or going really cold, or having extremities feel tingly and cold or hot, or having that flushed feeling in your face is common for people. GI distress absolutely comes with anxiety, upset stomach, nausea, sometimes vomiting, diarrhea. When people get nervous, they experience those symptoms. And it's not a bug or a virus, it's specifically related to feeling anxious. Might have some sweating either leading up to certain events or just comes out of nowhere. Trembling or shaking, and that can be visible to other people, like you hold your hand out and your hand tremors a little bit if you're nervous, or inside feeling like your insides are shaking, but somebody sitting across the room from you might not recognize that you're anxious or feeling shaky. Another symptom is fatigue, just feeling tired, worn out, and trouble concentrating, getting stuck in unwanted thoughts, unpleasant thoughts, those intrusive things that occupy our mind and we just can't seem to shake. So this is a graphic of some of those things, just how to recognize anxiety in yourself and other people. Other things are on there that I didn't mention. Lack of patience kind of goes with that irritability. Headaches, those somatic symptoms can really manifest for different people in a ton of different ways. There's no surefire, no, this is an anxiety, or yes, it is, because it's different for everybody. So this, I think, is important for everybody to recognize that we are all living with COVID-19. We are all experiencing this worldwide pandemic in a different way. It's affecting all of us, but all of us are experiencing and having reactions that are different. And it is a collective trauma. Our brains are trying to process a world and a way of life that we have never had to experience before. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about that and normalize for folks, if you feel like you can't grab hold of words, if you feel like you are tired, if you are shutting down, if you're wanting to be more avoidant and that is typically not your personality or really what you want to do, that's what your body's telling you to do, that could be a protective response that your brain and body are having because we are living in this traumatic time. So how do you know if anxiety is becoming a problem for you? These are just 5 things to just kind of check in. So what's the intensity of your experience with your worry or stress or anxiety? Is it uncomfortable? Do you have symptoms that bring you to a place that you find yourself thinking, I don't think I can tolerate this. I don't think I can live this way anymore. The duration of how long those things last. Do symptoms linger after you experience something, or do they kind of go away? If something happens, you get some news that causes you to worry, you worry right then, are you able to move on from it? Or is it still worrying you like later that evening or the next day or even the day after that? Does it interfere with things that you want to do? Is there interference in your life? Are you avoiding driving? Are you avoiding going into a store because you have a level of worry that won't allow you to do those things? Are there triggers? Are there certain things that you know will cause anxiety in you and stop you from doing things that you need to do to live your life, or that you want to do to live your life in a way that you want to live it? And how much overall does it affect your daily life or life as a whole? If you ask yourself the question, if I didn't have anxiety and worry in my life, would my life be significantly different? Of course, we worry about things. Things happen, and worry is normal. Worry is typical. There are certain times that I'm like, if you aren't worried about this, like, we need to talk about that, why you're not worried, because it's a normal response to certain things in life. But if you can look at your life and be like, oh yeah, I think I worry the normal amount, or my life would be drastically different if I didn't feel anxious about this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things in my life. So just good questions to reflect on and ask yourself to know if it's a problem. All of that information being said, what can you do right now to deal with those things? If anxiety does come up for you, either if it's something that you dealt with for a long time, or it's new for you. I think a lot of people that have experienced anxiety in the past had certain ways of managing it, and some of those things have been taken away from us right now. So I think it's important to kind of regroup and figure out, okay, how can I manage my worry, my anxiety, my stress in the current situation that I have to live in? So the first one that I'm going to talk about is breathing. I loved this graphic because, of course, the lungs, but also the tree, because trees to me mean grounding. It means feeling rooted and secure with where you are. And that is what breathing can do for us. But why does breathing work? It calms down parts of your brain that manage anxiety. And that's your sympathetic nervous system. Your sympathetic nervous system is responsible for that fight or flight and freeze. Breathing wakes up your parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for being calm, feeling neutral, being able to rest, those sorts of things. So when your sympathetic nervous system is in charge and you're, revved up and you're anxious, breathing wakes up that part of you that pulls calm back into the picture. Both of those systems can't be on at the same time. So if the sympathetic nervous system is running the show and we start to breathe, after a little bit of time, the parasympathetic starts to, wake up a little bit, and the sympathetic comes down, and it just creates a balance, which will help us feel calmer, help us feel more grounded, that sort of thing. So this is a graphic and an example of what's called square breathing. So how this works is, I think having a square in front of you is helpful, because being able to touch something like a Post-it works great. It's the perfect size, and you can trace that square with your finger as you do the inhale and holding and exhale and resting with it, and that helps your cognitive function. And if you bring your cognitive function up, your emotional level or your emotional reaction will come down. It's just how our brain works. So with square breathing, what happens is you inhale to a count of 4, not a fast 4, not a super slow 4, but just kind of inhale 2, 3, 4. Then you hold that in for the same count of 2, 3, 4. Then you exhale 2, 3, 4, and rest 2, 3, 4. If you are super charged up, if you're super anxious, I'm going to encourage people to try this at least 3 times before you give up, because if you're breathing fast and you're super anxious and you feel like something bad's about to happen, this drastic shift in breath could make, I have felt a little bit in the past like I was drowning, like I couldn't get enough air in. Maybe some people have said, I feel like I'm going to pass out. But if you do it 3 times, it will start to feel more natural. You'll start to calm down. So try it at least 3 times. Probably don't go through that cycle any more than 6 or 7 times. That's going to be enough to kind of bring you down, calm you down enough that you can then choose another coping skill and go do something else, or you're going to feel like you can keep going with whatever you were doing that made you anxious in the first place. Also, a good thing to look at, other than breathing, to help us cope with anxiety, is to pay attention to how you're thinking. What we think about and how we think about things absolutely influences how we feel about them. So if we are reinforcing our anxiety by thinking, yes, things are going to be awful, we're going to worst case scenario, you are going to continue to perpetuate that feeling of anxiety. So I just put in a couple of examples. Often some anxiety brain thinking is black and white thinking. Things are either this way or they're this way. People, if we get sick, then we die. If I drive the car, I will wreck and kill someone. There's no in between. There's no possibility that it could go any other way. Catastrophizing is that going to the worst case scenario place. Having something happen, or just having a thought that comes into your head and you automatically go to the worst thing that could possibly happen. Then we get into, if we go to that worst case scenario, to push back against that thought, check that feeling. Where's my evidence for this belief? Where is my evidence that it absolutely means if I get in the car, I'm going to wreck and die? Because clearly, if you're worried about that, that hasn't happened yet. We can't say 100% sure that you won't get in the car and have a wreck, but where is the evidence for what you're believing, and why are you so convinced that that's true? And that's just challenging yourself to think about things from a different perspective or move away from that black and white thinking. Often things that create stress and worry for us or make us anxious are things that are outside of our control. So I think to really take a hard look at what are the top 3 to 5 things that are causing me stress and worry, and if those things are outside my control, I'm going to strike those off the list, and I'm going to pay attention to the things that I do have some agency in and kick into that problem solving process so that I can feel like I'm being proactive. My brain can know, I hear you, anxiety. Okay, something is not right, something is wrong, but this is what I'm doing about it. So the final thing we're going to talk about to address anxiety when it comes up is moving your body. Just getting out and doing something. Physical activity is the best release for depression and anxiety. It will help you move that anxious energy through your body. I think often people get anxious and it's like that feeling of impending doom or that something terrible is going to happen paralyzes you. And you really, not that you might, sometimes you might have the conscious thought that if I move, something terrible will happen. But often it's just a feeling, and people notice that they just kind of close in on themselves and they do not move. And the best thing for that is to break that paralysis and just get up, just do something. And that can be cleaning your kitchen counters or putting in a load of laundry or just walking across the room to the front door to walk outside and get some fresh air or get a change of temperature. I think it's important to make that list of activities that you know distracts you and you like to do and engages your brain, and try one of those things if you feel anxious or paralyzed by your anxiety. Engage in a mindful activity. Mindfulness is the practice of being in the present moment completely without judgment. And that without judgment piece is the part that makes mindfulness really hard. We've never mastered being mindful. None of us, nobody. Even the people that we go to learn mindfulness from, they have not mastered it because it is an ongoing practice, something that we are getting better and better at the more we do it. But really trying hard to not judge yourself, not get stuck in some shoulds, not be stuck in the past, remembering things that have already happened, or being stuck in the future and worrying about what might happen, but being very present in the moment. And mindful activities can look like having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, or taking a walk and really just paying attention to hearing your feet hit the ground every time, or paying attention to how the wind sounds as it blows through the trees, or how the birds sound, or what are the sounds in your neighborhood or wherever you might be taking a walk. So these are just some final thoughts, things to consider if you do start to feel anxious. Reach out to others, a friend, a trusted person in your life, or a professional, whether that is a therapist or medical doctor, whoever you trust, whomever you have access to that you can talk to about these things. Try not to ruminate on things that are going on, things that are making you worry. Conversations, when you reach out for those people, should include topics other than the things that are making you anxious, and especially other than COVID-19. Of course, you have to check in about those things. You want to know how people are going. You want to educate and inform yourself, but really work to only get what you need and not oversaturate yourself. Conversations when you reach out should uplift you, distract you, or help you. And if there are people in your life that you can't get that with, if they just are stuck on talking about one thing and it really takes a toll on your mental health or your anxiety or whatever that might be to talk to them, then see if you can set boundaries with those people where you need them. If you're really not in a space to have those conversations that you know you're going to have, then wait for it. Or if you know you have to talk to this certain person and it typically leaves you feeling worried or anxious or kind of down when you talk to them, reach out to a best friend or a colleague or your partner or spouse and say, hey, I'm going to need to do something uplifting or have a conversation after I finish this phone call to bring your mood back up. Try and keep a routine. That's been helpful for people to manage stress and worry. Predictability helps us feel like, yes, I can manage this. I'm in control of what's going on. I can plug in little things throughout my day or week that I look forward to that will help balance the stress and worry that is happening right now. Do healthy things for yourself. Practice self-care. Don't overdose on the news. Keep yourself informed and knowledgeable about what's going on to the extent that you need it. But be careful when it starts to be all that you're thinking about or all that you're watching or all that you're reading. And the most important thing is to remember at any given moment, we are doing the very best that we can. So this is the WorkLife Connections team. That's me in the front. And then Eric Wilkinson, Rhonda Henry, and Ann Bassoni are the other therapists within WorkLife Connections. We offer confidential therapy services. We're operating at a totally remote telehealth format right now, but eventually we'll be back to seeing folks in person in the office. As a UK employee, you're entitled to 5 sessions per year that renew with the fiscal year. Like I said, all those things are confidential and not connected with HR in any way or the healthcare portal, that sort of thing. So that's our website. Feel free to reach out to us if you have questions or if you would like to schedule an appointment, that sort of thing. We would be happy to provide that for you. So I hope that today has provided you some good information, ways of asking yourself, like, do I need to reach out to a professional? Is there something I can shift in the way that I'm thinking about things or my self-care routine right now to help me manage what's going on in the world, what's going on in my house, what's going on inside my brain and my body. So I hope some of that was helpful. Please feel free to reach out to me or any of the WorkLife team with questions if you'd like to schedule an appointment or just where to get some resources for specific things that you might need. So everyone, take good care of yourself, be safe, be well, and thanks so much for listening. Take care.